I suggest we start our own new normal.
In a country where there are big questions over what people can say,
a true normal.
This is beyond any kangaroo rig court.
These are dark times for our nation. This is some third world bullshit right here.
Court handed the conspiracy theorist a nearly $50 million punishment, a possible warning to conspiracy theorists like him.
They're trying to make you afraid of things like critical race theory or the apocalypse.
I think it sets a precedent. All it takes is one jury actually change human behavior.
And it's been a long time in coming.
At some point, we need to start asking what the hell happened to all the money that we had. Duh.
Media dividing us by colors, white or black.
Duh.
You believe in Jesus, these days Christians get attacked.
What's going on here?
Freedom's dead, if you have an opinion, take it back.
Shame on you!
They put the world in a state of chaos, economy crashing and massive layoffs. Black against white or it's left versus right, divide and conquer and control is the payoff.
Shame on you!
It's absurd, outrageous.
And you know it.
What are we afraid of? What actually are we afraid of? What is freedom? Asserting the rights that you know you have, doing what you know is right, and being willing to accept the consequences. That's freedom. And we're back. We're back. Welcome to the show, my friends. Here we are. Once again. Armor of Truth Live, number 339. We've been on a bit of a hiatus for a week or so. Right there you can see.
Greetings, everybody.
Yep, summer update on everybody on where we've been.
Yeah. That was the video that was taken down that got us a strike.
Yeah. That was the Sound of Freedom video that we did.
Yeah, that one just got removed. And we also got demonetized.
That's right. Oh, yeah. So, okay. So we first got
demonetized.
And then the Sound of Freedom video was removed.
Mm-hmm.
And then...
And then we got this depopulation video taken down.
Oh, that's
interesting, right?
Yeah, that's the one that I was curious. I had to say it. I said something about it.
Yeah, you really did. You said, "Oh, I'm surprised we didn't get that one taken down," and that was the one that we just got the strike for.
Yeah, well, there you go. It had to do with excess deaths and all that. But well, welcome to the show, folks. We're happy to be back with you, and today we're going to be talking about PETZERO 2030. 0 pets by 2030. That's the goal, it seems, from the elites. We'll see how that plays out.
Well, you were also talking about the camps around the country.
Yeah.
So anyway.
That too. Christian apologist, old school Christian apologist, Cornelius Van Til said, quote, "Irrationalism has a secret treaty with rationalism." In other words, modern man is perfectly happy contradicting himself. There's a severe lack of responsibility in dealing with truth. That has invaded all spheres of influence, including the government, the church, and of course, the media. Being logically inconsistent is acceptable among a significant portion of our country today. We've seen this. If you've been paying attention the past couple days, you've seen this blow up online. The claims that in Springfield, Ohio, the Haitian immigrants have been killing and eating pets. It seems to be objectively true that they're doing something like that. There are pictures of a Haitian guy carrying around a dead goose, for one thing. And let's see, I'll find this other. It's just, let's play this clip. I don't know about that clip yet. I'm going to play the clip of we've got the police stop. We have that one in our list. I thought I had dropped it in there. Yeah, so there's Haitian driving without a license. Also look at this. Before we get to that, I'll jump into this one right here. Yeah, behind the wheel without a license. This is an article that we covered, when was it? Several months ago when we were talking about this issue. Where they're giving migrants driver's licenses. Well, of course, they're giving them driver's licenses because some of the states allow you to vote You have to have a driver's license to vote. So it doesn't matter if you can drive. It doesn't matter if you probably not doing any kind of tests. And people have been getting killed, especially in that this has started up again in Springfield, Ohio. So this was the article from the Chicago Tribune about this same problem. Let's listen to this lady as we get.
It is so unsafe in my neighborhood anymore. I have the homeless that were trying to camp out, and I have tried to help them the best I can to keep them from trying to squat on my property. If I have men that cannot speak English in my front yard screaming at me, throwing mattresses in my front yard, throwing trash in my front yard. Look at me, I weigh 95 pounds. I couldn't defend myself if I had to. My husband is elderly, and last night, after living in this home for 45 years, he said, Noelle, guess what? It's time to pack up and move. He said, we can't do this anymore. He said, it's killing both of us mentally. I don't understand what you expect of us as citizens. I understand they're here under temporary protected status, and our city services are overwhelmed and understaffed. But who's protecting us? If we're protecting them, who's protecting me? I want out of this town. I am sorry. Please give me a reason to stay. Thank you. It is so unsafe in my neighborhood.
Okay, now she's been interviewed a couple times as well. So let me get this. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say Blaze was down there doing some reporting. They had a national correspondent come down. A lot of independent reporters have come in, and there's just been numerous interviews with citizens giving their own accounts of how this is a real story. So, meanwhile, the mainstream media is totally gaslighting the world.
Okay, so here's this clip that, there's just lots of evidence.
Why'd you kill the cat? Smile for me. Smile with your teeth. Go like this. Did you eat that cat? Did you eat it? No, why'd you kill it? Did you guys see all this?
No, we pulled up and she was just laying there with it.
Did you see her eating it?
Eating it.
She was eating it?
Yeah, she was.
You called him. Why'd you kill the cat? Smile for me. Smile with your teeth. Go like this. Did you eat that cat? Did you eat it? No, why'd you kill it? Did you guys see all this?
No, we pulled up and she was just laying there with it.
Yeah, so there's that. Oh boy. Now we've got some good clips here too to share with you. I had one, hopefully it's still in here, of a Haitian American man who's describing why they actually want the cats. What's the point? Let's set the stage also with this video of the Venezuelan gangs in Aurora, Colorado. Another story where they said, oh, your imagination's running away with you. It's not really happening.
Says this is a picture of gang members breaking into a vacant apartment so they could move a Venezuelan family in and then collect rent. This is our business plan, one gang member told a housekeeper. If he, the property manager, doesn't like it, we'll fill him with bullets. The report authors called the gang's behavior brazen and further exhibits the suspected gang members' sense of comfort and control, consistent with their taking over the property and not fearing law enforcement or the property management. It was sent to Aurora officials on August 9th, with the investigators saying, the evidence we have reviewed indicates that gang members are engaging in flagrant trespass violations, assaults and battery, human trafficking, sexual abuse of minors, unlawful firearms possession, extortion, and other criminal activities, often targeting vulnerable Venezuelan and other immigrant populations.
Okay, now we've got, while we've been away from Armor of Truth, we did a show over on True Normal TV. What's up? What's the post? What's the Elon post?
There's an Elon Musk post. It has a young woman whose father was from Haiti.
Yeah,
it gives a pretty good...
I had one in here too that I don't know.
It's in the bookmark folder. It's about like midway down.
Oh, here it is. Yeah, here you go. This is one too. Let's listen to this guy too. This one's about 5 minutes, but the first minute or so is actually the point.
Listen, I am not Haitian, but I am from the Caribbean. The Haitian immigrants are indeed eating animals. Let me tell you something about these people. Not only are they harvesting cats for food, but also for witchcraft purposes, voodoo purposes. Understand this. If you don't want to take my word for it, go out there, meet a Haitian, talk to them about it. This is not something they aren't proud of. It's their culture. They eat these animals and they use the blood and bones of these animals for voodoo and witchcraft purposes. This is not a joke. The fact that they are here illegally.
All right, so you kind of keep saying the same thing there. Okay, so you want to see the Elon Musk?
Yeah, it's about midway down. It's a woman.
Let me check this guy while we're here.
Okay.
Guy from Springfield, Ohio.
Yeah, he's been making the rounds big time.
Now, if you you probably know that on Tuesday night there was a big debate. Not a debate. That's not a debate. That thing that was on TV. It was a
setup.
That's not what a debate is, right? But these presidential debates, they're not sure exactly how you could describe. It's just
all the world is a stage.
Just entertainment, really. That's not really a debate. There's no debating going on there. But it came up in the debate where Trump mentioned they're eating the dogs. They're eating the dogs. I saw on the television. And of course, ABC fact checks him. Oh, there's just no evidence of this. Well, it seems to be that there's.
I think it's like kind of odd that.
To say there's no evidence is just dishonest. And as what's happened basically is that this is sort of what we know that the media is not trustworthy. We know that they lie. But their ability to control the narrative has been severely mitigated. They're not as good. They don't have the effect that they once had at just controlling the whole narrative. Because now what's happening is you see on social media, particularly on X, it seems to be a place where you can say some things, at least for now. But what's happened is there's been a backlash now. ABC has caught lots of shade from this, and they deserve it. But it appears that just like with COVID, the narrative is if you're Democrat, if you're socialist, well, nothing's happening in Springfield. If you're conservative or Republican, well, you see what's happening. And if you say this out loud, you're
a bigot.
You're shamed. You're a bigot. Let's listen to this guy. He's also there.
Like a guy like me has to come out from doing what I do on a daily basis to have fun because I see what's going on in these streets. And I see you guys just sitting up there in them comfy chairs and suits and I'm getting out here every day and I'm broadcasting this and you guys are just sitting up there in suits or something. Like I really challenge you guys to get out here and do.
He especially doesn't like the fact of wearing suits, You catch that?
Something. These Haitians are running into trash cans. They're running into buildings. They're running into, they flipping cars in the middle of the street. And I don't know how, y'all can be comfortable with this. I don't know, who's getting paid from it. I honestly feel like someone's getting paid from it in the background. You got a bunch of people on a bus getting dropped off at a gas station to come down here. I know a single mom that FaceTimed me this morning at the welfare office that really need something. And it's nothing but immigrants over there. And I don't even want to seem like I'm coming down on the immigrants because it's the people that's bringing them down here. Because wherever they're at, that's what they're used to, bro. They're in the park grabbing up ducks by their neck and cutting their head off and walking off with them and eating them. Y'all get the Highway State Patrol down here every week, and then y'all get a task force for the Highway State Patrol. And they look for guns and they look for dope and this and that and the fourth. That same people that y'all got riding up and down Limestone doing U-turns, pulling people over for blinkers and pulling people over for going left to center and a couple miles over. Y'all can take them same people, the Highway State Patrol, and you can take them in every single one of their silver Chargers and Dodge Durangos, and y'all can take them to Sunset and y'all can park them right over there. And
well, basically, there you go. He goes on for a little while. He made sure he took full advantage of his Delphi technique 3 minutes. Okay.
Yeah, there's the woman. It's about a 2-minute clip.
Okay. Yeah, here's this guy. This is the, should we, well, okay, do you want me to go on to that?
Yeah.
Maybe the duck is fake. Maybe the man is a paid actor. And maybe this is all Russian disinformation. Yeah. You have any idea where it is?
I'm looking. There she is. There she is. Yeah, it's about 2 minutes.
States in the late 60s as a teenager, and I want to talk about these recent comments about the Haitians in Springfield, Ohio. First, I want to say my father and I are now estranged, but I did know him in my very, very young years, and when he immigrated, he was one person, and they weren't sending, thousands of Haitians in one area. He wasn't eating people's pets, and he didn't practice voodoo. But he did say that most of the island, the majority of the island, does practice voodoo. The reason they eat cats is for two reasons. Number one is survival. This is the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. You can't just go to a food bank like you can here, or just go to McDonald's and get some free or cheap food. Unless, of course, there's a Christian missionary there. People in the United States have a really hard time imagining that type of thing, but it is true. Second, they do animal sacrifices for their religion, Voodoo. They make these animal sacrifices to these gods for different reasons. You can do your own research on this. Do I think Voodoo is a demonic religion? Yes, I do. That doesn't mean that you hate these people. These people need prayer. But you can't just take over all these people from another country and expect it to work. Not to mention, it doesn't fix the problems of that country.
So that's a good point. We did a show here, gosh, it's been a couple years now, where we interviewed Steve Storkel, who is a missionary to Haiti. And he had some very interesting things to say, and I think maybe it's a good time. Maybe we put this in the description for folks to watch. Because he talks about his experience directly experiencing the black magic, demonic possession. Haiti seems to be a place, one of those places in the world where the veil between the physical and the beyond is a little thinner. And evil seems to run a little more freely there. Let's listen to just give you just a little bit of the background of the country. The reason I want to do this is because, once again, you see what's happening is a Western nation, just like it's happened in the UK. Where else, Summer? Sweden?
Yes, Sweden has been, apparently there's a lot of gang violence that's happening there, bombings and rape.
And now what's happening is, just like in the UK, the unrest is happening because you're taking two cultures that are just couldn't be more different, and you're putting them together. And as we know, we've tried to do our part here in helping you understand what is actually going on in the world right now. There's most certainly a socialist, communist movement in the world. They want to, what is it we say? The largest colonialization would be globalism.
Mm-hmm.
They want to
That's the largest colonization project ever to be completed, if it goes through in the way that they want, is putting everybody into the mainframe, if you will, with digital ID and programmable money. That's colonization for the entire planet.
Yeah, so when you when you put these cultures together like that, it's going to create tension. It's going to create conflict. And that's the point. That's the point. Let me just a couple minutes of this.
Right.
Let's see.
And I do have that slide. Do you want me to
show
pop it up there?
170.
About the
let me get through this piece right here real quick.
Okay.
Today we'll be with, Pastor Steve Storkel, and we're going to be talking about Haiti, missions to Haiti. And I want to give you a little bit of a background before we get started here. Make sure you can see us. That'll be helpful. There we go. So just so you guys understand what we're talking about, and off the southeast of Cuba, generally our area. So the natives of the island here of Hispaniola, this is the island here, the greater island here. When Christopher Columbus first landed on it in 1492, were virtually wiped out by Spanish settlers within about 25 years of their arrival. So in the early 17th century, the French established a presence on this island, and in 1690. So you can see you've got the Dominican Republic is on the east side of the island, and Haiti is on the left. You would have Jamaica would be over here to the west. And I think I've just found that clip of perhaps this is the demonic. This is a very interesting interview. We encourage you to check it out. This is from back in March of 2022. Yeah, it's been a while. One come from, I don't know, Voodoo to Christ, just to be,
yeah.
Do you have any of that?
Last, about this past Sunday, the Sunday before, I was at a Haitian church, and they were doing a great job with the Timothy Initiative and sharing Christ. And they had 13 new people to get baptized. And so we went down to the river at 7 o'clock in the morning, and they had 7 men and 8 women. And the last woman who went, she looked very timid and and horrified as she was about to get baptized. And yes, when she's coming out of the water, she began screaming, and the church that was there were praying, and the pastor and the associate pastor who were with them had to hold her up because her body went limp for a while. And I found out afterwards that this lady, before she came to Christ, was a witch, and this was the demon's work on her as she was getting baptized and making this profession of faith in front of this congregation that she was a new person, and she was screaming in Creole, "He knows what I've done, and He's forgiven me." And it was just a powerful time. And I've seen a few situations like this, but that was the one just the closest to me just recently, where it was just you see the power of God. And I would say that, and I've said this to different individuals and groups that have come, we in America do not see the spiritual battle going on between angels and demons and that whole thing going on, because I think we've been so focused on materialism in this country and so busy with being busy and accumulating stuff that there's not that spiritual battle going on. Where in Haiti and Dominican and Cuba, there's I've seen a spiritual battle that it's just a wrestling and battling over souls, and so it's very visual, very powerful, and it's changed my thinking about the spiritual world,
right,
and just what we're in.
Yeah. So Pastor Storkel also, I don't know if you remember somewhere where he was also described a situation where a man who was demon possessed, who spoke no English, suddenly was speaking clear English and just cursing him and cursing Pastor Storkel out, and was coming to attack him, wanted to kill him is how he described it, and some other men there grabbed him and held him back. But the point is, these people in Haiti need our prayers. They need our missionaries. They need Jesus as much as anyone. But there's a big problem when our government, they're not really, maybe they are thinking about this. I kind of doubt it. I think that what Pastor Storkel said there is probably right on point, that we've been so focused on materialism here for so long. We're not as, you heard when Trump mentioned they're eating the dogs. and we've listened to these people describe why that might be. And then you hear everyone in the media the next day talking, oh, wow, how did you hear him? Did you hear that man? You could see that man lose his mind right there on the stage talking about eating dogs. Again, now I know they're just going after Trump because they hate him and they'll say anything. But they're able to do that. They're able to make that sound ridiculous because for the most part here in the United States, we're just not really used to that. And it's very easy for us to just dismiss it. Our articles, I wanted to mention that we had one that came out yesterday. Bush to Biden. 9 liberties lost since 9/11. We won't go into this one tonight because it's a different topic, but we encourage you to check this out. Also has a link to our AOT 315, the end of that video where we talk specifically about the militarization of the police through the 1033 program and other programs. But this goes through 9 different rights that have been mitigated, abridged, or somehow lessened or lost since 9/11. So I encourage you to check that one out over at Substack, armoroftruth.substack.com. But back on topic here, let's listen to this mayor of El Cajon, California, which is a suburb of San Diego, talk about the federal government and NGOs running a covert operation with migrants in his area. An example, again, of a communist coup that's currently occurring in America.
Right, and some sort of pattern that we've been able to recognize is that we can hear this mayor very lucidly describing the situation in his region. And then when you think about what's been happening in Aurora, the mayor of Aurora actually lucidly explained this is actually happening. And meanwhile, you've got the media and you've got the police denying it and gaslighting. And then look at what's happened in New York when he suddenly started to sort of push back a little bit. They went after him with lawfare.
Yeah, and he also, the mayor of New York, just hosted a Chinese group as well over there, specifically, Chinese Communist Party. But anyway, let's listen to this clip.
From the border, I went to meet with the mayor of a city a few miles away from the border to see how the migrant crisis is affecting his city and his civilians.
Since October, we've had over 250,000 drop-offs in San Diego, these street releases. The County of San Diego already spent $6 million on a migrant welcome center. But, there are also costs that you don't see. Everybody that comes across, whether they're a citizen or not, is entitled to full health care. And that even includes having sex change operations. People that come over with kids are put up in a hotel.
I'll just stop it there for a second. Did you guys hear that? They're entitled to full health care, and that includes sex changes. Why in the world would that be something that would be important, necessary? Let's make sure that the migrants who come across have access to gender reassignment surgery. What in the world?
Those hotels cost $8,000 to $10,000 per month, and that's paid for by the city. Now there's a bill in California that says that if you're an illegal alien, you can get free college tuition, even a 20% down on a house. It's by design because normally, if there were any kind of a crisis that were happening, we would have coordination between the local government and the federal government and the state government. But we have absolutely no communication with anybody from the feds. They won't tell us when people are coming or how many are coming or why they're coming. Our police officers, by law, aren't even allowed to have a discussion with the Border Patrol or any ICE enforcement. So it's not by accident. They don't want us involved. They don't want us stopping the process because the whole idea is to have a free-flowing border. By flooding more people into the country, they're going to go to population centers with a high Democrat presence. If they get counted in the 2030 census, more congressional seats will be allocated. Then those dark blue areas will elect dark blue candidates that will go to Washington, and then they'll control the government forever. People are being brought over to be embedded into our culture that they can be activated whenever needed. Attack the water system, attack the electrical grid, industrial espionage. It seems like our federal government is playing very fast and loose. Crazy. get picked up by the Border Patrol. They get taken down to the trolley stations in San Diego. When they're dropped off at the trolley stations, then they're picked up by NGOs and non-governmental organizations, people who get paid to disperse them. They're very secretive. They won't tell us where they're going. They won't tell us, what their purpose is. And then they just kind of disappear into the landscape. I believe that they're in coordination with the cartels. The Biden administration is in coordination with the cartels. The Biden administration is in coordination with the cartels. I think they have their own reasons for it, and none of them are good for America. And the more people like you that are asking questions, the more problematic it is. And so they don't want you asking questions. They certainly don't want me asking questions either.
Yes. There you go.
Right.
This is part of our recent article, Free Market Capitalism and Biblical Charity Are the Natural Enemies of Communism. Now, there's that piece. And then there's a new article also, Mixed Marxian Arts. Venezuelan gangs are the glory of the far-left death cult. And so this is really, I think some of this is probably where we want to maybe camp out for a minute. Don't you think? This is where, this is kind of the point we want to make to you tonight, is what we've said in this article here. Prisoners and gangs have long been useful and cost-effective and ruthless enforcers for revolutionary communist regimes. I think maybe one of the...
Yeah, let's play that other video, the old one.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best way to...
that one is really...
explain this. Yeah, let me get this full screen.
Check this one out, guys.
Yeah, so the question we want to answer here is why would they do? Why might they be flooding the UK, Sweden, other parts of Europe, the United States, Canada? Why are they flooding the West with
agents of development, as they call them?
Yeah, agents of development. But people who come in who are poorer than the poorest Americans. But they're bringing them in and they're giving them lots of money. They're giving them resources, like you saw there, access to health care. Apparently they're giving them cars, driver's licenses. They're just setting them up.
Why are they emptying out their prisons?
Emptying out their
and
prisons,
sending them here.
Mental institutions. Now, those are just the facts. Why might they be doing this? It's our contention that they're importing now, because Americans are not going to revolt. Or it's take quite a lot to get Americans to revolt. And that's because the assumption in socialism is that eventually capitalism will deteriorate so bad that the people will revolt, because capitalism is abusive and it's immoral and it creates the conditions for inequality and oppression and alienation. The problem is that in free market capitalism and democratic republics, people can vote and change the laws and the policies. And capitalism has evolved over time with more regulations that make it. We don't have 10-year-olds working in steel factories now. That's the kind of thing. So capitalism has made people who live in capitalist nations have it very good. So they love where they live and they don't want to revolt again. They want to preserve what they have. So we're not a revolutionary class. But if you could import your own revolutionary class, give them everything they need, get them comfortable, and then suddenly, someday soon, pull it all away from them, then you might have some people that would be upset and ready to revolt. Yeah, what have you got up there?
This is a post from James Lindsay that is just eerily on point. It's talking about Mao and the Cultural Revolution that happened, and that there are two key forces that created the Red Guard. One, a dreamer population whipped up against class enemies that's new to the population, and two, a two-tier legal system protecting them. So you can read all the different points there on the slide. You can pause it right now and just absorb it. We just wanted to point out that this is just part of the strategy of a communist takeover. Okay, it's something that's been done in multiple countries throughout the world in recent history.
All right, let's see. Here we go. Let's check this out. So this is what the point is here. This is what the Red Guard looks like. It's the young people. They whip up the young people, destroying social traditions.
Engaging as what is known as leftist hatecraft.
Oh,
and framing people in capitalistic countries as selfish hoarders, that they would be communicating that in the social services interactions that they're having with the people that have been brought here to the country.
And why are they a protected class?
That is why, also, starting with our administration, we gave TPS, temporary protected status, to Haitian migrants, 55,000. And then more recently, we extended temporary protected status to over 100,000 Haitian migrants for that very reason, that they need support. They need temporary protected status to over 100,000 Haitian migrants, status to over 100,000 Haitian migrants for that very reason, that they need support. They need protection.
Yeah, vote for her. She'll look out for your best.
Well, there's that two-tier legal system. So protections for a different class, a different group of people hoisted on the American people.
Yeah.
And then
temporary protected status should be given to the cats, ducks, swans, and geese too.
Are you going to go back to that?
Yeah, I'll jump back to that
other
now.
video.
Yeah, check this piece out right here. Why might they allow these people to come in? The bigger question here that we're asking in this article is specifically, why are they allowing gang members and prisoners to come through like this? Don't we have a little background on the Venezuela, on Tren de Aragua? We don't have to do that. We don't have to worry about that right now.
We do.
That's something that we could publish.
On
Substack at some other point.
Well, I do have it right here. The gang was reportedly formed in 2014 by inmates in the Venezuelan prison system. So the gang benefited from a lack of state control within Venezuelan prisons. Over a short time, Tren became increasingly organized and established a powerful network coordinated by a central figure or small group of leaders, often running the gang inside of a particular prison down there. Tren has since extended its reach internationally throughout Central America into South America, and then, of course, recently here in North America, specifically wreaking havoc in certain United States sanctuary cities, as we've seen. So what are their activities that they're engaged in? Their criminal activities, drug trafficking. The group engages in the transportation, distribution, and sale of drugs across Venezuela and into neighboring countries, human trafficking and smuggling. So maybe you guys have heard a lot about this already through other reports, but, smuggling of migrants even, and human trafficking and forced prostitution, as well as basically kidnapping for ransom as well. So this is a very dangerous group of people, and of course violence and murder. So basically it's just been this organization that has been able to gain traction here in cities across the U.S. And we've seen them pop up, especially in New York and in Denver famously in the recent weeks.
All right, with that in mind, check out how this went down in the Soviet Union.
Most of the pictures in this documentary were photographed by communist cameramen as the actual events were taking place. Communist narrators interpret some of the scenes. The words of the communist leaders are their own. The jails are opened, allegedly for political prisoners. but convicted felons become the new police force. Translation, criminal album. Anas Yanis, 11 sentences for felonies, released from prison June 21st, becomes inspector of police. Yanis Businskis, professional thief, serving 3 years and 6 months, is made chief of the Red Guard. Sipe Gutmanis, a felon, serving 3 years and 6 months, moves up to prefect of the 2nd Police District. August Kalmans, burglar, serving 2 years and 1 month, was promoted to chief of police of Dogopil. Matisse Botanicus, thief, serving 2 years and 1 month, is the new chief of police of Liepaya.
Chief of police.
The new constitution from Moscow guarantees freedom from unreasonable arrest. Previously respected citizens, now labeled enemies of the people, are herded into trains and deported to slave labor camps. While parents are persecuted, great care and attention is immediately focused on the children. A red scarf of communism is supposed to give the character representing the spirit of childhood control over the world. The true meaning of the red scarf of communism is evidenced by this list of 78 Latvians from all walks of life. The notation says, politically unreliable, shoot them to death. There are no trials, no appeals. A mass grave in the courtyard of the Riga City Jail. More than 15,000 men, women, and children, educators, doctors, ministers, students, laborers, are executed. It's the same sad story in Estonia and Lithuania.
So this is the last page of the Communist Manifesto. The communists disdain to conceal their views and aims. They openly declare that their ends can be attained only by the forcible overthrow of all existing social conditions. Let the ruling classes tremble at the communistic revolution. Now, just apply that the other way. It just so happens it's never bottom up, right? It is the ruling class that's running it. The proletarians, meaning the working class, have nothing to lose but their chains. They have a world to win. Working men of all countries, or workers of the world, unite. So you can see communism is certainly a globalist endeavor.
And you can hear, when the World Economic Forum and the United Nations always says for all, what they're referring to is this Marxian vocabulary. For all. It's going to be a movement that they believe that all countries of the world have to participate in this in order for the dream, the utopia to be realized. It's communism.
That is a fact.
No country can go rogue. All countries have to be involved. All people.
By the way, we met yesterday. We met Mark Robinson, Lieutenant Governor of North Carolina, who is running for governor of North Carolina. We got to meet him yesterday, and in his speech, he was very, very clear about who Kamala Harris is and basically what that movement is about right now.
Yeah, he identified the enemy.
Let's see. I think it's in this. Maybe it's in this article. I used some other terms to try to describe. Let's see. Oh, that was in the 9/11 article. Yeah, let me bump over there for a second.
Yeah, so, when they say for all in communist speak, this means with a strong prejudice for some over others in the name of equity. The underlying assumption is that some Americans, no doubt here undocumented Americans among them, aren't getting a fair shake and require wealth, goods, services, access, and opportunity redistributed to them utterly unfairly and without having earned it. It's so important that we get a handle on communist manipulations of language and learn to spot it and reject the underlying premise.
Yeah. Gosh, what? I've just lost my mind. What am I looking at here? Oh, this Bush to Biden, 9/11, 9 liberties lost since 9/11. This is kind of the way I'm thinking about it. The ruling class led by an unholy union of neoconservatives and progressives have turned America from her foundational principles of liberty toward soft despotism for the moment, actually tyranny. Calling a spade, we examine here in this article the wedded works of the Machiavellian, Alinsky, that'll be Saul Alinskyite, Luciferian, Marxists, and the false front fascist warhawks. So the ones from the PNAC agreement, the Project for the New American Century, those, the George W. Bush administration, the ones who probably had a lot to do with that thing that happened on 9/11. We'll just leave it there for now. These groups, you wouldn't think that they would be working together, but they've always shared the same interests. So we're talking about the group that's considered to be, at least 20 years ago, 30 years ago, the Republicans, the conservatives, and the far left. We can see now when, the 200 Republicans that, there were aides, and it wasn't all high-ranking Republicans, but it was, the George Bush staffers. Dick Cheney came out and said, supported Harris. Mitt Romney did. So you can see that they've come together on this movement. Okay, so check out these articles on Substack. We're fairly prolific over there, and we have some plans to start, putting out a podcast over there. They make it pretty easy, and probably something just to go along with our articles. All right. Ben Franklin is still shocked, in case any of you were wondering. So let me share a couple more thoughts with you before we look at a couple more of these videos. But what we're seeing going on now, what's happening? These are signs of, it's evidence of a descent into depravity. It leads to a futility of mind and a culture that rejects common sense and consistency and true compassion. Remember when we started out, I gave you the quote from Cornelius Van Til, irrationalism has a secret treaty with rationalism. In other words, we're perfectly happy to let contradictions fly, right? We heard that today, right? Someone was blaming the guy in the clip. They said, oh, that's your truth. The guy who saw them taking the animals or saw them driving on the streets or whichever it was.
Yeah, this moral relativism that...
Yeah, people in the comments were just like, yeah, that's your truth. You can believe what you want to believe, but that's the problem, right? You see, we're in postmodernism. Really what that means is that's the prevailing mindset. What was it that Taylor called it? The social imaginary of the day, and what that means is what more people believe is true, what the majority of the people believe to be true. And today, postmodernism is a reaction to modernism. And modernism was all about, that's where you get the Enlightenment. That was all about reason and truth and scientific method. Postmodernism is a reaction to that, where truth and absolute knowledge, God, these ideas are all held in contempt. Your truth is your truth. There is no absolute truth. There's a severe lack of responsibility in dealing with truth, and it's invaded all spheres of influence. Ingrid Clayton, PhD, psychologist, writing for Psychology Today, says trauma bonding is a hormonal attachment created by repeat abuse, sprinkled with being saved every now and then. This type of conditioning is intuitively exploited by narcissists. They are masters at giving us just enough and then ripping it all away. And I was just looking in the chat here a few minutes ago. Once again, greetings to, there's Marsha. I was talking about her parents lived in El Cajon, and she said they would not be happy at what's happening in El Cajon right now. Miss Noel P. says, I knew witchcraft was involved. Kelly Hansen, welcome. It's good to see Kelly Hansen is with us. She says, I'm a political atheist. Thank you, Kelly, for the very, very kind gift that you sent us. We received it, and we appreciate
thank you
it very
so
much. Do we have that address handy right now?
I can grab it.
Yeah, it's all right. You take your time. Yeah, you can reach us at our snail mail. We'll get that up for you in just a moment. There we go. Armor of Truth, P.O. Box 729, Hudson, North Carolina, 28638. If you want to reach us by snail mail, you can send us a card. Tell us how much you love what we're doing. Tell us that you think we're crazy. But, send us something. Communicate with us. If you want to support us, you can send checks or money orders to that address as well. If you want to send cash, that's fine too. That's up to your discretion. And if you would like a receipt, you can let us know when you send it in. And we typically send out receipts anyway. Let's just say it this way. If you don't care to receive a receipt, just let us know in your message. You just want to send us a gift, you can do that as well. Some people just would rather not, and that's okay too. Armor of Truth, P.O. Box 729, Hudson, North Carolina, 28638. If you got a book or something you want us to check out, we've had that happen before. People send us books they want us to read and comment on.
Yeah, and big thank you to Crystal as well.
Thank
she
you.
sent a couple of nice presents for
some
us.
Gifts. Yeah, that was really
cool.
Very sweet. A couple Bible journals, which I really do appreciate that, Crystal.
Very much.
That's, really, really cool. Yeah, so over in the chat, thank you guys for being here with us tonight. Slumdog, $20 with us, said Governor DeWine has promised help for Springfield. Yeah, I think he called in the National Guard, didn't he? Let's see, there was another comment here where it was, I think it was probably, there's a general feeling of, or sentiment of anxiety. Help get the world out of me. That Kelly Henson is in it. There was another comment there that I guess, Lulu Bell said, we don't realize how good we've had it. And that's where Marcia said, my late parents retired in El Cajon. They would be having a fit. And what they see happening now. Lulu Bell says, a grateful heart is important. That's a very good point. Kelly Hansen said, praise God for taking me out of Egypt, but please get the Egypt out of me. So trauma bonding is formed in conjunction with gaslighting or shaming and manipulation. It's designed to make us question our reality. On the other hand, there must be consequences for those who see the lie improperly identified as a lie and refuse to bond with their abuser. Now, this works obviously on the individual level, face to face, and it can also work on the mass level. These people are dangerous to the abuser, those who don't believe the lie. These kind of people are dangerous to the movement. Their ideas must not be allowed to reach the people. Or today, since we have social media, then anyone who goes against the official narrative needs to be publicly shamed. You need to remove their credibility. How can dissent be effectively managed and true debate be silenced in a nation that had previously flourished because of free speech and robust public debate? Controlling the minds of the people, psychologically managing the minds of the masses to reject debate, to act on feelings rather than facts, to hate the one who disagrees with the experts, to attack the one who goes against the approved narrative. Intentional sowing of fear results in long periods of panic. These long periods of panic are followed by promises and insignificant gifts from those in power. And this causes waves of terror It doesn't matter if the terror is in question, if it's real or fictitious. And then each round of fear is followed by a round of calm. Have you noticed? That's how things seem to go. Now, it's ramped up now, and it's pretty consistent because there's an election coming up. But in between the election cycles, you see this happen. And it moves, the socialist movement knows that they're going to run up against resistance, especially in the United States. So they move up, they take ground, and then when they reach resistance and people start getting angry and pushing back, they'll stop and let it cool down. When everybody goes back to their business and whatever they were doing, then they continue forward again. But see, the point is they never lost ground. They just keep moving forward. Contradictory reports, nonsensical recommendations, and blatant lies are deployed intentionally because that increases the confusion, and confusion is the point. Conflict is the point. The more confused a population is, the greater the state of anxiety, which reduces the ability to cope with the crisis. And the ability to cope withers. As it withers, the more unhealthy the society becomes. And then after a short period of calm, the threat level is elevated again, each round or wave of fear more intense than the one before. And over time, it becomes easier and easier to control everyone as confusion and anxiety give way to false hopes presented by those in power. The noble lie, we've talked about a lot here, is monotonously repeated. And it begins to have more of an emotional appeal than logic and reason. Once a society is firmly in the grip of this mass psychosis, totalitarians, socialists, Marxists are then free to take the last decisive step. Then they will offer you a way out, a return to normal. The price, though, will be your freedom, your liberties. Unless they're granted total control, they won't be able to create this order that everyone craves. This order, however, is a pathological one, devoid of all humanity, demanding strict conformity and blind obedience. The noble lie is founded on deception, and therefore, globalists, neo-Darwinians, social utopians know that they need to produce huge lies. They establish dominance through psychology. It's an initiation. It's a reframing of reality. Abundance is oppression. Narratives are truth. They remove continuity. For example, in the narrative that's going right now with the pets, eating the pets, that narrative. Well, right now, the official narrative, the official response is there's no evidence, it's not happening, only crazy people are saying it is happening.
Yeah, play that one in the history if you have access to it. Of the,
but what you should look for to come next will be when it gets to the point where it's just not in question anymore. When there are people saying, no, look, this was my animal, they took my pet. When it becomes obvious, then they'll say, well, look, yeah, it happened, but it wasn't nearly as bad as they say. Until eventually it gets to the point where everyone knows they're eating pets and nobody cares. Well, people care, but it just becomes normalized, remember? It's demoralization, destabilization. Then there's the crisis, and then the period of normalization. All right, Sam, which clip is it?
It's in the history on YouTube.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, which video is it?
It is
inside town, inside the Ohio town.
India Today. U.S. presidential election. Here's why Trump said they're eating the cats and dogs.
Oh, yeah. This is frustrating when you hear it.
There's also a CNN News one too.
Yeah, check this out. This is ridiculous. If it
This is AutoZone's worst nightmare.
It's AutoZone.
Let me get that ad out of here. All right, come back over here until they get this ad out of here. Yeah, this is so from India Today. We also had that article from Hindustan Times.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that?
Yeah.
We'll check that one out in a minute. Wow, they want this whole... Yeah, hang on. Let me get this thing in a different browser. I don't have to play this ad. I was just trying to play it in one of our browsers that's easier to use, but I'll just get it over here. That's ridiculous. Here we go.
I love how they want you to use nanotech on your car, but they also want to put nanotech in these different body sprays and,
That's right.
Injections.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs. The people that came in, they're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. This is what Donald Trump said during the presidential debate. Fact checkers dismissed Donald Trump's wild claim as a gross exaggeration. But here are 3 reasons why Trump said what he did in the presidential debate. Rumors about Haitian immigrants stealing and eating pets had spread on social media in Ohio weeks before the presidential debate. According to a Facebook post earlier in September, a person claimed that their neighbor, a Haitian immigrant, was preparing a stolen cat to be eaten. The fake news was amplified by key right-wing figures Elon Musk and Ted Cruz. Republican vice presidential candidate Trump's running mate J.D. Vance also shared it on X, stating, and I quote, "Reports now show that people have had their pets abducted and eaten by people who shouldn't be in this country." Although Springfield police and officials were quick to dismiss these claims, Trump supporters started sharing AI-generated images of cats and ducks feeding into the false story. Even Musk shared images, leading to more right-wing commentators joining the chorus with posts like "Save the Cats, Vote Trump."
So how about that? It didn't happen, folks. This is this is a page out of Jean Baudrillard, right? The thing,
the gaslighting.
The thing didn't happen.
And now there's also apparently a movement. Well, it's been gaining traction for a little while now, but I'm going to pop over to the screen right here.
Well, I've got the CNN clip.
Okay, the other one. Okay, yeah, go there.
The 2024 presidential race has been an extraordinary one, to say the least. But perhaps nothing is more extraordinary than the latest campaign being pushed by Republicans. Donald Trump's running mate J.D. Vance and several other prominent Republicans are making some disturbing claims about Haitian migrants in Ohio.
Your nomination to be Vice President of the United States of America.
Vance, who's a senator from...
Look at the presuppositions. Why are Republicans targeting Haitians, right? That's the...
Your nomination to be Vice President.
Right there. There's a presupposition right there. That's... So to the audience that views this one, this is CNN News 18.
Yeah.
From where? I don't know. It doesn't matter. And also about Tucker Carlson. They're just anybody who has.
Let's pop over to the other one too. The Middle Nation with the guy calling for the United States to be taken out of the UN. It's right there in the history.
Okay.
Because what we want to show you guys is, the globalists / communists, of course, they want to have this narrative running that they've been working on for years, as most of us know. But, they want to make us look like we have to be brought down.
Is that the one you want?
Yes.
Sure about that's the one? Okay.
It's in the General Assembly. While they're doing nothing but sitting in the pews of a global secular church. Let's talk about something that really should have been talked about and pursued a long time ago, but nobody ever talked about it. No one ever suggested it because no one ever thought it was possible. Just even suggesting it was impossible. But when you say the unsayable, well, then it's no longer unsayable. It isn't unsayable anymore. And you've changed the narrative forever. And you bring into possibility what was never imagined to be possible. And what I'm talking about, of course, is something that I tweeted about the other day, and that is expelling the United States of America from the United Nations. You know, once you say it, everyone can understand why this is logical. Everyone can understand why this is justified, and everyone can understand why this is necessary. Everyone knows that the United States completely rigged the United Nations system right from the beginning. Everyone knows that with their unchallengeable veto power, they essentially render the United Nations subservient, toothless, impotent, powerless, and they relegate every single member state as second and third class nation status. It isn't a system for enforcing international law. It's a system for enforcing America's exceptionalism.
Okay. Right. So what I wanted to call attention to that bit of information is, especially looking that there's their petition. We know that for the Pact of the Future, they're supposed to be discussing Article 6, which means would be expelling the USA from the United Nations. Now, don't get us wrong. We've been advocating to get the United States out of the United Nations for a long time now. But what they're saying, and you can see their Marxian fist right there, is, hey, you know, they're a violator of human rights, and we've got to kick the USA out. So, and then you see that coverage of how, you know, because people are calling out this stuff that's happening in Springfield, Ohio, they're reframing it as bigoted. So just wanted you guys to recognize and be savvy to some of this rhetoric and how they are building this narrative that, you know, the United States is just full of a bunch of bigots who are spreading, you know, fake news, and that this is really outrageous. And we wanted you to be able to recognize how they're doing that because, you know, obviously they want to neutralize the first world and get people to view people in the first world as deserving of being neutralized, deserving of being taken down, and therefore prop up their BRICS plus bloc of nations that they themselves, the globalists themselves, are the ones that created it. So this is like their new headquarters, their new HQ is BRICS plus nations. They are very much in control of everything that's happening with BRICS nations. They're very much on board with SDGs. So just not to be deceived.
All right.
Back to you.
What was this one here? Colin Rugg, the Haitian pet story is spreading throughout TikTok.
Yeah, so they're doing some memes and songs, of course.
Eating the cats, eat the cat, eat the cat. They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats, eat the cat, eat the cat. They're eating the dogs, they're eating, eat the cat, eat the cat. They're eating the dogs, they're eating,
the dogs, they're eating. It's demoralizing. I mean, this is so insulting to me because look at what these people are going through in Ohio and how horrifying that would be. Like if your pet was killed and then you've got people out here on the internet that are just making a song out of it, you know, like, and then saying that, no, that's not happening to you. Like, imagine how that would feel.
I would say is he brought up this misleading false claim that you yourself have talked about in recent days about Haitian immigrants in Springfield, Ohio, abducting people's pets and eating them, which officials there have said is not true. You yourself acknowledged it may be false on Twitter. You still told people to keep spreading it. But Trump just amplified it to tens of millions of people who were watching. Why push something that's not true?
Well, first of all, city officials have not said it's not true. They've said they don't have all the evidence.
They said they have no evidence.
We've heard from a number of constituents on the ground, Caitlin, who both firsthand and secondhand reports saying this stuff is happening. So they very clearly, meaning the people on the ground dealing with this, think that it is happening. And I think that it's important for journalists to actually get on the ground.
So you're actually, one of two things is happening here. You're watching a psychological operation play out between these two who are in on it. You can go that way with it if you like. Or you can just see the media disintegrating before your eyes.
Well, for sure, you know, when you look at the way that Harris dealt with Trump the other night in the debate, she used she was basically arguing with him from the standpoint of low information people, if you will. I hate that term, but, you know, just people that basically don't really pay attention to politics, just very superficially.
Or people who are busy. People who have lives that, you know, that they're not watching every move that comes out of the media. You know, they might work for a living.
Yeah.
They might be busy.
Like she accused Trump again about the whole Project 2025 thing, which all he's done since the beginning is try to distance himself from it. And, you know, so but also just keep in mind that their whole strategy is all about, just being aggressive and shattering arguments and just being contrarians, right?
Yeah, he's telling her, he's answering her question, and she's just still pushing back, saying, no, it's not true. It's not true. It's not true. It's not, she just keeps pushing. Let me hear what he says at the end here.
And uncover this stuff for themselves when you have a lot of people saying my pets are being abducted or geese at the city pond are being abducted and slaughtered right in front of us. This is crazy stuff. And again, whether those exact rumors turn out to be mostly true, somewhat true, whatever the case may be, Caitlin, this town has been ravaged by 20,000 migrants coming in. Healthcare costs are up. Housing costs are up. Communicable diseases like HIV and TB.
So there's just got a graphic on the screen for you there that's important. Whenever, and look at this, hang on a second, I gotta get this.
To actually get on the ground and uncover this stuff for themselves when you have a lot of people saying my pets are being abducted or geese at the city pond are being abducted and slaughtered right in front of us. This is crazy stuff. And again, whether those exact rumors turn out to be mostly true, somewhat true, whatever the case may be, Caitlin,
that's the look of contempt, right? Oh, but JD, it's not true. Don't you understand? The official narrative is that it's not true. Now, what this does, let's have that graphic back up there now, because what this does is it ends up distracting from something like this. Explain that graphic for the people.
Right. So we've got 1.3 million foreign-born people having jobs, 1.2 million native-born people losing jobs in statistics that recently came out. And here's another graph of seeing people that are working. You can see that foreign-born have way more jobs right now, and native-born have just been sort of chugging along consistently after the big 2020 drop. And obviously, this is trying to create a war between, the people that have been living here and the people that have been imported here. And also the thing that if you listen to interviews, like the people that are coming in here illegally across the border, they're just being told, okay, vote for Biden and Harris or whatever, in order for us to stay. And then if Trump comes in office, he's going to kick us out. So, but it sets up this whole situation where the proletariat, they're getting ready to have, they want to stoke that race war, that war between two people groups.
Interesting, right? And so that's what happens. And here's more examples of this. Now listen, this is as James Lindsay explained it. You may not know exactly what you're watching. Now, this might rub you the wrong way. It might irritate you. As the MSNBC say, Trump supporters are just as despicable as he himself is. James Lindsay points out here, this is another example of a communist tactic or
hatecraft.
Or specifically Maoist. Yeah, specifically Maoist hatecraft. And the point of it being is you've got to keep pushing the society in this direction. Keep pushing further. Let's listen to this. Shame,
Also to do things, Ellie, that one would think are career-ending. The way he desecrated Arlington.
Now keep in mind, whatever you think about the assassination attempt or whatever, let's just assume that everything is true and as it is presented. Well, okay, he got hit in the air with a bullet. They've run a lawfare operation on him to the point where they've got him convicted of a felony. They keep him in court, and still, I mean, the other night it was very clear that Kamala Harris she gave, I don't know, half a dozen or more old chestnuts, old memes that simply didn't happen, aren't true. They never fact-checked her. They fact-checked Trump on everything he said. So, and now just listen to the way that they speak about him. I don't think that they actually even believe this, everything that they're saying. But this is the tactic. This is the the job.
And the thing is the arch enemies of communism is like people who believe in liberal democracy. Therefore, their flogging of every political opponent as a far right extremist when there are none, actually tells us exactly who they think they are. Like when they use this language, you know that they're going by the wokest playbook. They're using the Marxist strategies.
That's
so
right.
Take a listen.
Yeah, that's a good point to make. You know who these people are by the terms they use to describe their enemies, right? We put this in one of our articles too. This is there is no fascist movement in the United States. I mean, there might be one, but it's not at the level of national politics.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, the Democratic Party in America, at least its radical majority are bona fide far-left communists, and their purpose is to demoralize and destabilize America in every single way for their revolution and the establishment of their, the lie that they've been sold, which is the utopia that's going to happen once they tell every single person on this planet what they would have them do.
The national cemetery would be career-ending for a normal politician. His constant lies. But even this piece about saying, well, my building was the tallest until, they brought down the World Trade Center. Now it's the second tallest. I mean, everything he does is despicable.
The reason why it doesn't end his career...
Like, again, the graphic that Summer shared with you there, the fact that Americans losing jobs as immigrants gain jobs, all this obfuscates all that. So the viewers... whoever's actually watching this, and there are not many, are just being completely led down the garden path.
Here is because his supporters are just as despicable. All right, like Trump's whole thing, he's a narcissist, right?
Okay, so that's including all of those who don't vote or can't vote. You've probably got about maybe 90 million, about a third of the people in the United States that he's calling despicable, just despicable, awful people.
And so his whole thing is to have a complete lack of compassion and empathy for everybody else. It's all about him. That's why he lies about 9/11. It's all about him, me. He's probably the least compassionate president we've had in 200 years since Andrew Jackson. And it works for him because his
How could you possibly know his level of compassion? You can't know. I mean, that's
what they do. So they have to have that narrative. They have to build that archetype for their clan of people, if you will, who won't go outside listening to the MSM, so that they believe stuff like this. That's how they dehumanize. That's how they genocide.
Maoist hatecraft.
It is. It's hatecraft. And by talking about by dehumanizing human beings, this leads to the genociding of them. Full stop.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's a good point. Yeah, the more you can shame somebody. Remember, they called him Hitler for years. He ended up taking a bullet for it, and they're right back at it again. So you tell me, again, just assume that everything you're seeing out there is true. Let's just make believe for a second that everything is as it appears, and Trump was really shot. Who's actually the one that's not compassionate? Who's actually the one who is being extreme in their views? Here's another video.
The Red Guards, having served their purpose, were then packed off to work in the countryside, pledging loyalty as they went.
So the point here is the Red Guard, the ones that were recruited to do the bidding. This would be the same as the students on the campuses who are protesting, rioting. The Free Palestine group. That's the purpose that they're serving. Now, when their purpose was served, they got shipped off to the countryside. Those are labor camps. It's not a wonderful trip to the country. They were labor camps, brutal conditions, and many of them would die. Let's listen to Yuri Bezmenov in just a moment.
Right, and we just have to say, too, that the far-left movement in America is not only Democrat. It includes many neoconservatives like George W. Bush and the war hawks that served him in his effort to weaken America during his 2 terms in office. Right, so the U.S. Patriot Act.
Yeah, there's another one of those graphics. lays it out there in easy to see graphics. Employment since July 2018. How about that?
So that's going to stoke some resentment.
Yeah. Okay.
By design.
So as we work through this a little bit, replacement migration is the term. Ben is still shocked, and it's still okay to hate communism. Replacement migration, this is a document from the United Nations, UN.org, on replacement migration. In the document, it says replacement migration refers to the international migration that would be needed to offset population decline. So they feel like that they need to do this. They need to, in other words, it's not a conspiracy. They are actually causing, coercing, and funding these migrants. And we're funding the migrants because, as we'll show you in a moment, U.S. tax dollars go to fund these NGOs that do this.
Right. And we just need to remind people about, they're doing this also in the guise of equity, right? So they believe that they have to, that this has a noble reason for doing this. But in fact, as we know, we've dissected it in numerous different ways and the problems.
This is an article where the Heritage Foundation investigated, and they revealed that NGOs play a significant role in facilitating mass migration. So they're not just coming on their own. They've got a lot of help. And the way they did it, they used some kind of geo-tracking.
The other way to look at this, too, is what we see happening with the mass influx of people into Western civilization, into first world nations, if you will. That is lockstep. We saw lockstep during COVID, but this is lockstep also. This is a massive operation from the very top that's being implemented to disrupt and destabilize Western civilization.
Yeah, Heritage Foundation found over 30 non-governmental organizations, excuse me, goodness. Sorry about that, folks. Over 30 NGO facilities near the border. And they were able to trace the movement of many of these migrants with approximately 30,000 devices that had been given to the migrants. It's a 4-phase operation, and reports suggest that NGOs, including Catholic charities, assist in migration with inadequate oversight. Biden's administration allegedly manipulates immigration policies to disguise the scale of the migration, utilizing programs like humanitarian parole and apps to manage so-called asylum seekers. Okay. Next on the list here is this. This is the Migration and the 2030 Agenda, of course. There it is. The purpose of this migration plan is to ensure that migration is recognized as a critical factor in development and is managed to maximize its benefits while minimizing its risks. Just showing you this so you know that this is not an organic thing. This is a managed operation. It says in this document, the plan aims to create a comprehensive framework that views migration as a positive force for sustainable development while ensuring it is managed safely, humanely, and responsibly. And those are lies. Right? They want to facilitate orderly, safe, regular, and responsible migration. They want to support sustainable development goals because migration, they say, affects multiple aspects of sustainable development, like poverty reduction, education, health, gender equality, and economic growth, and other nonsense. Let's watch this video once more so you can see that this migration does nothing about reducing poverty.
Some people say
now the video is very fast because this is how it came to me, but we're able to get a lot of information quickly.
That mass immigration into the United States can help reduce world poverty. Is that true? Well, no, it's not. And let me show you why. This gumball represents the 1 million legal immigrants that the United States has taken every year on average since 1990. Now, who in the world deserves our humanitarian compassion? The World Bank has one measure of the desperately poor of the world. They make less than $2 a day. And how many people make less than $2 a day in the world? We'll start with Africa. In Africa alone, there are 650 million people who make less than $2 a day. 650 million. And in India, another 890 million people, desperately poor. China adds another 480 million people making less than $2 a day. And unfortunately, the rest of Asia has a heartbreaking 810 million people who the World Bank says make less than $2 a day. And finally, there's 105 million of Latin America's population that are desperately poor. All told, the World Bank says there are 3 billion people in the world, 3 billion people who are desperately poor, making less than $2 a day. That's 3,000 gumballs. And every year, we take 1 million and suggest that we've somehow made a humanitarian difference. Of course, we don't pull our immigrants from these desperately poor populations, do we? These people are too poor, too sick, too disconnected to make it here as immigrants. We tend to pull our immigrants out of the better off poor of the world, and Mexico tends to define the type of immigrant that we bring here because the plurality of people come from Mexico. And Mexico is poor. How many people in the world live in countries that have average incomes lower than that of Mexico? And the World Bank tells us.
So for some context here, this study was done before the current crisis. So as we know, there are a lot of migrants come from a lot of different places. But the point here is, does it actually reduce poverty, as the United Nations claims?
That number is these 3 billion plus another 2.6 billion people. 5.6 billion people in the world who live in countries with average incomes below that of Mexico. That's 5,600 gumballs. And so what is it that the elites are telling us? They're telling us that when we take this 1 million immigrants, that we somehow or another are tackling world poverty. And we have to do it regardless of the effect on our unemployed, the working poor, the most vulnerable members of our society, regardless of the effect on our natural resources. Even if we went by the most radical proposals in Washington, which are to actually...
You heard that right, because he just said that one of the main factors of this mass migration is the effect it has on our resources and our natural resources. So in fact, it has a negative impact on the climate. It does the opposite of everything they say it's supposed to do.
Double our immigration to 2 million a year, which would totally overwhelm our physical, natural, and social infrastructures. We couldn't make a noticeable difference. And we may be really hurting the impoverished people of the world, because the million that we do take are among the most energetic, often the better educated, certainly the most dissatisfied people that if they did not immigrate would be the agents for change to improve the lot of all the people in these countries. The true heroes in the global humanitarian field are the people in these countries who have the wherewithal to immigrate to another country but instead stay in their countries to apply their skills to help their fellow countrymen. Unfortunately, our immigration system tends to entice these very type of people to abandon their countrymen. The impossibility of making even a dent is actually worse than it looks here. Because last year, when we took 1 million immigrants, these countries added, births over deaths, 80 million more people into the impoverished population. And this year, Congress is bringing in 1 million legal immigrants. And this year, according to the United Nations, these countries are expected to add another 80 million people. And next year, you can be quite sure that Congress, unless stopped by the American voters, will bring in another 1 million immigrants. And these countries, unfortunately, will be adding another 80 million people into these impoverished nations. We could take 5 million a year, but we'd never get ahead of what's happening in these countries. Not in this century. Don't you see? Immigration can never be an effective or significant way to deal with the suffering people of the world. They have to be helped where they live. 99.9% of them will never be able to immigrate to a rich country. There's no hope for that. They have to bloom where they're planted. The only place that 99.9% of these people can be helped is where they live. Let's help them there.
That's the answer, right? If the United Nations really cared about these people, they would help them where they are. But they don't, because of climate change. They're in the global south. They're fleeing climate change. Of course, they're not fleeing climate change, but that's what they say. Why do they do it? Summer, why do they flood the people in here? I think that it's because they're importing their own revolutionary, ready-made proletariat revolutionary class.
Well, it's a way to neutralize people that are liberty-loving.
Yeah.
And, you know, with the taxation that they've been doing incrementally over the last few years, it's a transfer of power and wealth out And you basically keep a population so preoccupied with survival that they can't really rise up and organize. And you basically just transfer that power over to another part of the world, which is, because the end game, of course, we know is the Chinese social credit system is ultimately what they're after. They want to be able to control what you think and what you say.
In the late 1920s and early 1930s, the proletarianization of the middle class resulted in the widespread support for communism, fascism, and National Socialism. Today, as in Europe before World War II, people on both right and left often blame financial institutions for their precarious situation. This is what gave rise to movements like the Occupy Wall Street movement. Slogans like, "We are the 99%." Alienation from the political mainstream today is resulting in strong support for far-left parties and candidates among youth in various high-income countries. It's also apparent in the United States, which historically has not been fertile ground for Marxism until recently. Support for socialism, long anathema in America, has gained currency in the new generation. A poll conducted by the Communism Memorial Foundation in 2016 found that 44% of American millennials favored socialism, while 14% chose fascism or communism. By 2024, millennials will be the country's biggest voting bloc by far. And we've got data. I don't have it on me right now, but we'll pull that up for you next time, showing that what was it? Do you remember off the top of your head somewhere where they polled you got it?
Well, 70% of millennials support socialism and 33% support communism. Because think about it, they've infiltrated the schools.
I got to give Summer applause for getting that stat right out of the box.
Bam.
There you go.
Yeah, this is a long time coming, like decades long time coming. Like we're talking, like most notably in 1969 in the late 60s, the peace out revolution, the civil rights movement.
Oh yeah, we've got some good video coming up for you soon that we've been finding lately too. Democratic capitalist societies need to offer the prospect of a brighter future for the majority. Without this belief, more demands for a populist strongman or a radical redistribution of wealth seem inevitable. The future of the working class should concern us all. If too many lack any hope of improving their condition, we could face dangerous upheaval in the near future. That is from Joel Kotkin in a book titled The Coming of Neo-Feudalism, A Warning to the Global Middle Class. Interesting book. I don't particularly believe that we're going into neo-feudalism because, and there's a reason for that, because the idea is to get to the communist utopia. We believe that whatever a new world order might be, it would be something along those lines if it was ever to come about. And capitalism is the last stage before the revolution and the communist utopia. Neo-feudalism is a stage below capitalism. So now the Soviet Union went directly from feudalism into communism. They skipped the capitalist stage. That's because Lenin had no patience and didn't believe that they were going to revolt. And that's kind of what's happening here now. Where are your tax dollars going? What are they funding? Well, they're setting up bases that funnel illegals from wherever, all over the place. China, Panama, Colombia.
Do you think you could call up the trailer for Grinding America Down? Curtis Bowers.
Well, yeah, we're over time though right now.
It's really good though.
What is it?
So it's called Agenda Grinding America Down, and it's in YouTube in the trailer.
I don't know which is the trailer.
It's only going to be like a couple minutes long. Do, do,
I wasn't ready for that. I was going to go ahead and wrap it up. But.
It's really good. It was made about 14 years ago, crazily enough. There's like an Agenda 1 and an Agenda 2.
Okay.
And they use the conflicts as justification for more government.
Go back. We need I don't know what I'm doing. There we go.
There you go. Thanks for bearing with us.
To stop the chaos. So they create the chaos, and then they step in as a solution to the chaos. And they use the conflict as justification for more government to stop the chaos. So they create the chaos, and then they step in as a solution to the chaos. And as Francis Schaeffer said, once this chaos comes, most people will willingly give over to authoritarianism because they don't want the chaos.
Children are always the first targets of anybody trying to bring down a system.
You look at the changes in America since 1960, perhaps. The whole culture has been transformed.
We're at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars. And it's been said if we lose that war, and in so doing lose this way of freedom of ours, history will record with the greatest astonishment that those who had the most to lose did the least to prevent its happening. Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. Not too long ago, two friends of mine were talking to a Cuban refugee, a businessman who had escaped from Castro. And in the midst of his story, one of my friends turned to the other and said, "We don't know how lucky we are." And the Cuban stopped and said, "How lucky you are. I had some place to escape to." And in that sentence, he told us the entire story. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. And this idea that government is beholden to the people, that it has no other source of power except the sovereign people, is still the newest and the most unique idea in all the long history of man's relation to man. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves. Winston Churchill said the destiny of man is not measured by material computations. When great forces are on the move in the world, we learn we're spirits, not animals. And he said there's something going on in time and space and beyond time and space, which, whether we like it or not, spells duty. You and I have a rendezvous with destiny. We'll preserve for our children this, the last best hope of man on earth, or we'll sentence them to take the last step into 1,000 years of darkness.
Human beings were slaughtered in the 20th century than all previous centuries combined.
All the ideologies that elevate man end up devaluing certain human beings.
It's obvious if you're trying to subvert a country, you want to control the news, you want to control public opinion.
When they discovered that they could do more to remake our country by going into the schools than they could by throwing bombs.
We highly recommend that you guys, you can get that on Amazon Prime. It's Agenda 1, and there's also Agenda 2. Really worth it, because even though it was filmed, before 2020, there's just foundational truths and information and historic footage that will very quickly help you understand the battle that we're in right now. And you can see the tactics that they're utilizing, and they've just done nothing more than rebrand it try to rebrand it, try to update it in cultural Marxism, make it, popularize it in the West. So understanding that, I think, is really powerful.
Yeah, it is. This is an important time. And yeah, bear with me for a second. I'm going to pull something else up. I want to send you guys out on a positive note today. At the end of our articles, you'll find that we are, well, our longer articles. We do put up quite a few just brief pieces to keep you updated on things that are going on. But in our longer pieces, we definitely like to end with a biblical application, and that's what I want to end with today. If I can manage to pull it off, we'll see if I can. All right. Yeah, 2 Timothy 2:12 says, if we endure, we will also reign with him. If we deny him, he will also deny us. Now, this also, when we talk about this issue of immigration, we have to deal with the biblical principles of charity, which can be found in the New Testament, and specifically 1 Timothy 5:8. If anyone does not provide for his own, especially for those of his household, he has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. That applies to leaders. That applies to fathers. That applies to anyone who is responsible for other people. That applies to those in power, in charge in our nation. So, what do we do? The immigrants are here. Should we be donating? Should we be taking care of them? Well, as you have opportunity, after you've provided for your own household, and then if you're a Christian, after you've taken care of the household of faith, there are principles to charity. And no, we don't just give our stuff away to whoever shows up asking. Nor is the church a place where people should now the people who do show up at churches should be able to get to find charity there, but it shouldn't be the first place they go. That should be something that we as Christians would take care of ourselves first, but only after you've taken care of your own household first, and then the household of faith, other believers. And for those who don't do that, they are denying the faith. They're worse than an unbeliever. So it's not likely that we could expect the Lord to pull back, it looks like his spirit has been pulled back. We're under a judgment here. It's not likely that judgment is to end anytime soon with the way our leaders are behaving. But loving truth is about much more than tearing down bad arguments. We're commanded to build one another up by being constructive and encouraging discernment and growth in the understanding of truth. Always pointing others back to the foundational truth of Scripture and the gospel, and encouraging them away from vain philosophies of those who don't know any better. 2 Corinthians 10. Paul gives some incredibly helpful advice to be careful and thoughtful, to maintain a spirit of humility, recognizing our total dependence on God's grace and truth at all times. Ephesians 5:15-16 says, look carefully then how you walk, not as unwise, but as wise, making the best use of the time, because the days are evil. So we need to be grounded in the wisdom of Scripture always, so that we can discern between what is true and what is simply vain philosophy. And that's how we become wise. And this is how we remain vigilant and aware of the deceptive influences and spiritual threats that have us hemmed in on every side. The days are evil. And even the most well-meaning person can be manipulated or be manipulative. Deception often disguises itself as good. Satan and his servants will often appear as angels of light, 1 Corinthians 11. People will disguise themselves as ministers for the good. They will proclaim that they're fighting darkness, saving the world from tyranny and lies. The demonic will almost always manifest itself as something the human heart finds appealing or reaffirming. So when we experience confusion or fear, our first response must be to examine ourselves. The apostle to the Gentiles encouraged the wild Corinthian Christians to do just that. In 2 Corinthians 13. Examine yourselves. See whether you're in the faith. Test yourselves. And then after that he says, or do you not realize this about yourselves, that Jesus Christ is in you? So is Jesus Christ in you today? Do you belong to the King of Kings? And if the answer is yes, then what are you worried about? Really, what are you worried about? James encourages Christians under tremendous persecution to not doubt. James explains that the one who doubts is double-minded. Literally means double-souled. It's a condition that's impossible, is what he's saying. You have to be one or the other. But when you're in that condition, when you are doubting, that's when you're likely to be deceived. That's when you're likely to be thrown around by the winds of change. That's when you're likely to fall into traps. James encouraged these persecuted Christians, and by application us, if you don't understand what's happening and you feel confused by what you're seeing and hearing, then pray and ask God, who gives generously, for wisdom. Because our God is the God of the open hand, not the clenched fist. And after a sincere account of ourselves, first, when we understand our rebellion and our absolute dependence on God, then we can ask the Lord to help us overcome these influences and urges. We'll have no need of anxiety and fear if we live it out this way. Anxiety and fear don't build anything. They only destroy. But that's what they want you to feel. They want you to feel anxiety and fear. They want to create conflict. But if you want answers and if you want comfort, the place to begin and end with is God's Word. True wisdom will always be consistent with that rod, that measurement, that truth, that objective, eternal, unchanging truth. Ask God with a humble heart. Trust in His sovereign rule, His providential action, and God will give you far more than you expect or deserve. He will give you peace. There's a big problem today among all of us, it's especially in the church, and that is resentment. Not especially in the church, but also in the church. And that's the resentment, because they're stoking resentment. That is one of the main goals. Marxism is to create conflict, to make you feel resentment for what other people have, to make you feel resentment for what they're allowing to happen in Springfield, Ohio. Don't fall for that. Let's see if I've got that little here. I had one piece here. Yeah, I don't know, I lost it. The idea there is that, though, that what we need is to not fall into that resentment, to not allow ourselves to be resentful, even of our leaders. Politics affects policy, and policy affects people. So we have to be involved in this. We have to be paying attention to it and aware of what's going on, because that's how we can. That's a way we can help people. Is to understand what's happening and to demonstrate peace. If we don't stand firm and glorify Christ and advocate for America's return to her foundational principles of liberty and traditional Christian values, then we soon might not have a nation to defend. Again, Charles Spurgeon said, "We've had enough of clever men without consciences. Let us now see what honest, God-fearing men will do." We're in a season of struggle and anger, resentment and bitterness over everything that's happening. But when we express bitterness and resentment, that means the blessing of God is not resting on us, at least not in that moment. The blessing of God only rests upon those who are capable of blessing their enemies. blessing those who use you, who take advantage of you. So unless we can faithfully bless our enemies, pray for them, ask God to bless them, especially when they lie, cheat, steal, and kill, unless we can do that, then we can't expect God's blessing to rest on us or our nation. We don't get indulgences. We can't buy ourselves a free shot at wicked rulers. There's no getting around the truth. You've heard that it was said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. Matthew 5, that's Jesus. If you love me, you'll keep my commandments. Jesus commanded us to bless those who hate us and hurt us and gripe us. Romans 12 has a chapter heading in some translations that says the marks of a true Christian. What is that? I want that. I want to know what that is. Well, it's outdo one another, showing honor. Rejoice in hope. Be patient in tribulation. There's a tough one. How many times have you fell on that one this week? I'm guilty. I don't know. A dozen? 2 dozen? Be constant in prayer. Bless those who persecute you. Bless and do not curse them. Repay no one evil for evil, but give thought to do what is honorable in the sight of all. If possible, so far as it depends on you, live peaceably with all. Never avenge yourselves, but leave it to the wrath of God. For it is written, vengeance is mine, I will repay, says the Lord. No, don't seek revengeance. Paul says, to the contrary, if your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he is thirsty, give him something to drink. For by doing so, you will heap burning coals on his head. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. So we're not only commanded to bless and pray for them, we're not even allowed to hesitate. At our first opportunity, our command is to ask God to bless that person, bless his day, bless his family, bless his labors, etc., etc. Why would we do that? Why in the world would we ask God to bless someone so deep in sin, so evil? Whether or not God actually blesses that person, Kamala Harris or Donald Trump or whoever it might be, that's above your pay grade. That's God's department. It isn't for us to decide whether or not a person is worthy of God's blessing. We already know that we're not worthy of it. It doesn't matter whether we think it would be good for that person or not, whether they deserve it or not. What we know is what God has said, and he has said that it would certainly be good for us to give the blessing. So our duty is to glorify God, and we do that through obedience to his will. We can trust God to do the right thing with our obedience, but that's only when we're obedient. Now, it's certainly understandable that after enduring all these tactics, these darkened minds for many years, and after being overwhelmed by their constant lies and deceptions, that you might get a little irritated with the nonsense. You might feel sad, discouraged, hopeless. You might get really ticked off. You might get good and angry. You might fire off hateful diatribes at the ruling class, at your friends. These are hard times. But take heed. When we fall into that temptation, when we react to temptation in that way, when we allow anger to rule our hearts and bring us down, that's when we have fallen for the devil's ruse. That's the purpose of the 24/7 news cycle. It's not to keep you informed. It's to own your mind. It's to evoke reactions in you, to create conflict. But brothers and sisters, my fellow Christians, we're different. So let us be different. Let's be faithful in our duty as Christians, living as sojourners in a foreign land, living as sojourners, blessed to live in a great nation. Let's be different. Don't be like them. Let's be bright. Let's be light and let's be bright, because right now it's dark out there, and if we're out there with our light shining, we're going to be very visible right now. It's going to be easy for people to see that we're different. And that's the message. All right, that's
amen to that.
all right. All right, thank you folks for joining us today. Lulu Bell, Kelly Hansen, Del Griffith, and everyone else that was in the chat with us today. Slumdog 20 bucks was there. Thank you for joining us, and we're going to see you again very soon. Anything, Summer, you want to add on the way out?
No.
Okay, my friends. Let's be different. Let's be that light. This is our opportunity. See this as an opportunity for us to glorify God. It's a unique opportunity. Let's don't miss it. God bless you, friends. We'll see you.
God bless you guys. Thank you.
The hammer comes down and beats you over the head for the rest of your life with a big national security stick. And so that people learn to duck their head and not speak up. Because bad idea now.
This is the emergency broadcast system. This is not a test. Repeat, this is not a test. Citizens are advised to take the following steps.
Find us, armoroftruth.net.
In the age of technocracy, scientism, and pop atheism,
anything is resistance.
Nietzsche, of course, announced the death of God and called for the birth of the Übermensch, the Superman, who would take humanity to new heights and to create a new world order.
Find us at the Armor of Truth YouTube channel.
This is not a test. Repeat, this is not a test.
good luck. We're all counting on you.